Welcome to Lento English. Ready to level up your English? Here we learn through stories, slow, clear, and fun. Listen, relax, and enjoy the journey.
One introduction. Singapore is a very small island. It is not a big country. It is like a city. When it started, it did not have many natural things. It did not have oil or other important things from the ground. It was a difficult start for this place. But Singapore did not stay a small place with problems. It became a very important city in the world. Many people think it is a very good city to live in. It works very well. Things are clean and work on time. How did this small island become such a success? This book will tell the story of Singapore. It is not just a story about buildings or trains. It is about how people plan the city. It is about smart ideas. The people in Singapore planned for the future. They worked very hard. They wanted to make the city better. Singapore faced many problems in the past. There were too many people in some places. Homes were not good. It was not easy to keep the city clean. But the people decided to change things. They made plans to build a good city. They thought carefully about everything. They planned where people would live. They planned how people would travel. They planned how to get clean water. They planned how to have green spaces in the city. This planning was very important. It helped Singapore grow. It helped Singapore become a clean and safe place. It helped Singapore become a rich place. It is an example for other cities. It shows that good planning and hard work can make a big difference. Even though Singapore is small and had few resources, it did not stop them. They used smart ideas. They worked together. They built a city that is famous around the world. It is a modern city with a good life for many people. This story is about how a city can be built well. It is about thinking ahead. It is about solving problems with clever ideas. It is about working hard every day. Singapore shows that even a small place can do great things with the right plans and actions. We will look at some of the specific ideas Singapore used. We will see how they built a good transport system. We will see how they provided homes for people. We will see how they made the city green. These are all parts of the big plan that made Singapore a top city today. It is a story of planning for a better future and working hard to make it happen for everyone. 2. Great trains for people. Singapore has a very busy train system. Many people use it every day. About 2.1 million people ride the trains each day. The train lines are long, about 200 kilometers. Let's think about trains in another big city, like Los Angeles in the United States. Los Angeles also has train lines. They are about 157 kilometers long, which is similar to Singapore. But far fewer people use the trains in Los Angeles, only about 178,000 people each day. This difference is very big. Why do so many more people use the trains in Singapore? The trains in Singapore come much more often. During busy times, like when people go to work, trains come every 2 or 3 minutes. When it is not busy, they still come often, every 5 or 7 minutes. In Los Angeles, trains come less often, about every 5 or 10 minutes. Also, Singapore's train system has a smart design. If you look at a map showing the train lines and where many people live, you can see something special. The train lines go to all the important places. There is a line that goes in a circle. This circle goes through places where many people live. This means people can travel from one part of the city to another part without going to the middle of the city first. This makes travel easy for many people. Looking at the Lowe's Angels train map with where people live shows a difference. That system is good for people going to or from the city center, but it is not as good for going from one side of the city to another side. Singapore also has plans to make its trains even better in the future. For example, they want to put special cameras and sensors under the trains. These will check the tracks all the time. This way, they will know exactly when the tracks need to be fixed. This will help trains run smoothly and stop for less time for repairs. The trains are a very important part of life in Singapore. 3. Less cars, easy travel. Owning a car in Singapore is very expensive. This is not by accident, it is part of the city's design. Singapore is a small island. It has over 5 million people living on a small area of land. Because the land is small, the city needs to manage how many cars are on the roads. To control the number of cars, Singapore uses a special system. People who want to own a car must first buy a special paper. This paper is called a Certificate of Entitlement, or COE. It gives you the right to use the roads for 10 years. The cost of this paper is very high. It can cost tens of thousands of dollars. You have to buy this paper before you even buy the car itself. So the total cost of having a car for 10 years becomes very high, much more than in many other countries. Singapore also makes drivers pay to enter busy areas of the city. This is called congestion charging. The city started doing this a long time ago, even before many cities in Europe. Paying to drive in the city center helps to keep the traffic moving smoothly. Even during busy times like rush hour, traffic flows well. Cars can still travel at a good speed on the main roads. The city has a plan for the future. It wants to have fewer cars on the roads. The goal is not to stop people from having cars completely, but to have a society where people use cars less often. By making car ownership costly and managing traffic with payments, Singapore encourages people to use other ways to travel. This plan helps to keep the roads clear and makes it easier for everyone to move around the city, whether they are using public transport, walking, or cycling. 4. Nice paths for walking and biking. Singapore thinks about how people move around the city. It is not just about trains and cars. It is also about walking and biking. The city wants to make it easy and nice for everyone to walk or ride a bike. The city has built many paths for people who like to ride bicycles. Today, there are 120 kilometers of these bike paths. These paths are separate from the main roads. This helps people ride bikes safely away from cars and other traffic. Riding a bike is a good way to travel for short distances. It is also good for your health. Singapore has big plans for the future of biking. The city wants to add many more bike paths across the island. The plan is to build 700 more kilometers of bike paths by the year 2030. This is a big increase. When these new paths are finished, it will be much easier and safer for people to bike to many places in the city. You will be able to ride your bike to parks, shops, schools, and even work on these nice paths. Walking is also very important in Singapore. The weather can be very hot and sunny, and sometimes it rains a lot very quickly. To help people walk comfortably in this climate, Singapore built special paths with roofs over them. These are called covered walkways. There are 200 kilometers of these covered walkways in the city. These covered paths are very helpful. When it rains heavily, you can walk under the roof and stay completely dry. When the sun is strong and hot, the roof gives you shade and keeps you cooler as you walk. This makes walking a much more pleasant way to travel, even when the weather is not perfect outside. These covered walking paths are often built close to train stations and bus stops. This is a smart idea. It helps people walk easily and comfortably from their homes to the nearest train or bus station. It also helps them walk from the station or stop to their final place, like an office building, a shopping mall, or a school. This connection makes using public transport easier and more attractive because the walk part is comfortable and protected from the weather. Having good paths for walking and biking is important for a modern city. It helps people stay active and healthy. It gives people more choices for how they travel around. Using bikes and walking more can also help reduce the number of cars on the roads, which is good for the environment and helps keep the air cleaner for everyone. Singapore is building a city where walking and biking are easy and pleasant for everyone. These many paths are an important part of how people can move around the city in simple and nice ways every day. 5. Good homes for all. A long time ago, life was difficult for many people in Singapore when it became an independent country. In the year 1960, before independence, many families lived in houses that were very crowded and not clean. It was a big problem for the growing city. To fix this, the government started a special group called the Housing and Development Board, or HDB. The HDB had a big job to build good homes for everyone. They started building many new tall buildings, which are called flats. These flats were a big improvement. They had important modern things like clean running water and electricity inside each home. This made life much better for people. The building work was fast. In just a few years, they built thousands of new homes. By 1976, only a little over 10 years after Singapore became independent, more than half of all the people in the country were living in these new HDB flats. This was a very quick and successful change. At the same time, some other countries also tried to build many public homes, like in the United States. But sometimes these projects did not work well and had problems. Singapore's plan was different, and it worked very well for a few important reasons. One reason was how the HDB built communities. They did not just build buildings, they built whole areas called new towns. These areas were planned carefully. The flats were built near places that families needed every day. There were shops where people could buy food, places to eat like famous hawker centers with local food, and schools for children. The homes were also built so people could easily walk to bus stops and train stations. This made it simple to travel around the city from home. Another important reason for success was helping people own their homes. The government sold the new HDB flats to Singaporean citizens for a lower price than other homes on the market. This made it possible for many families to buy their own place, even if they did not have a lot of money. When people bought a flat, they did not own the land forever, but they got a long lease, usually for 99 years. This felt like owning their home and made them care for it. The government also has programs to help keep older flats nice and clean. Today, the HDB housing plan is still a big success. Most people in Singapore live in these public homes. More than 80% of all the people live in HDB flats. And almost all of these families, about 95%, own their flat. This focus on providing good, affordable homes in well-planned areas helped Singapore become a successful city where most people have a good place to live. 6. Building big and smart. Singapore is known for building big and smart things. One famous example is its airport, called Changi. Many people think it is one of the best airports in the world. It even has a beautiful garden inside, like a park. This airport is already very big, but Singapore has plans to make it even bigger. They want to add a new part, called Terminal 5. This new part will help the airport welcome many more people, maybe 50 million more passengers every year. Building such a large place takes a lot of space. It might surprise you, but the ground where the airport stands was not always there. It was built on land that was once under the sea. Making new land from the sea is something Singapore does often. This is called land reclamation. Singapore is a small island, so it needs more space to grow. Over many, many years, Singapore has added a lot of new land this way. They have made over 14,000 hectares of new land. This is like adding nearly 25% more land to the country than it had before. Imagine adding a quarter more space to your home. It's a very big change. Singapore has added more land from the sea, by percentage, than some countries famous for this, like the Netherlands. This helps Singapore to build big new things. It allows the city to grow and build more homes, roads, and places for work and fun. Land reclamation is a big project that changes the shape of the island. These big building projects are a main part of how Singapore became a successful and modern city. They show how the country plans ahead and uses smart ideas to make the most of its small size. Building big and smart helps Singapore have space for everything it needs as it gets bigger. 7. A city full of nature. Building a city changes the land. In Singapore, building big meant that some nature was lost. For example, there were many forests before, about 400 square kilometers. Now there are only about 2 square kilometers left. Special trees called mangroves also decreased a lot. There used to be 75 square kilometers of mangroves, but now there are only 6.6 square kilometers. These trees are important because they can live in salt water. They also help the land by holding a lot of carbon and protecting the coast from storms and the sea. Singapore is now working to plant more of these special trees. The city also worked to clean its rivers. This was important for getting water. Singapore collects water when it rains. They built large places called reservoirs to keep the rainwater. Today, water from 2/3 of the city's surface is collected. Singapore gets its clean water in 4 main ways. One way is water that comes from another country. Another is the rainwater collected in the reservoirs. A third way is by taking salt out of seawater. The fourth way is called new water. This is water that was used before but is cleaned very well so people can drink it again. One big reservoir, Marina Bay, can give 10% of the city's water needs. Beyond water, Singapore wanted to be a garden city. This idea started in 1967. At first, it meant planting many trees. Over time, the idea grew. Now there are many green areas and parks. There are 7,800 hectares of green space. The city also has 4 special nature reserves to protect plants and animals. Since 2009, when new buildings are built, they must include green spaces. This has led to buildings with plants on the roofs or walls. This plan, called Skyrise Greenery, aims to add 200 hectares of green walls and roofs by 2030. The government even helps pay for some of the cost to add green roofs and walls. A big plan for the future is for everyone in Singapore to live 10 minutes or less from a park by 2030. This shows the city wants nature to be close to people's homes. 8. Making it all happen. The government in Singapore was very important for planning the city. One political party was in power for a long time. This helped them make plans that looked far into the future, not just for a few years. This long-term planning helped the city build many things quickly. New roads, new buildings, and new homes for people were built fast. But building so quickly meant that some old things in the city were lost. For example, there were small old villages with special houses. Most of these old villages are now gone. Only 2 are still here today. Many old shop houses were also lost. Shop houses are buildings with a shop downstairs and a home upstairs. However, in more recent years, people started to try and save these old buildings. Since the 1980s, the government has worked to protect old shop houses. Now, many thousands of these buildings are protected by law. Sometimes, old buildings are used in new ways today. For example, an old building that was one of the first places for public housing is now part of a new hotel area. This shows how the city tries to keep some of its history while also building new and modern things. Singapore built a city that works very well for the people who live there. It has good ways for people to travel, good homes for many families, and green parks and plants everywhere. The ideas from Singapore can be helpful for other cities in the world. Cities in other countries can look at how Singapore planned its transport, its housing, and its green spaces. They can learn from Singapore's ideas about making a city a good place to live and work. Making a city work well takes careful thinking and a lot of hard work over a long time. Singapore shows that planning for many years can make a very big difference to a city. The city changed a lot in a short time. It went from a small island to a modern, successful city known around the world. This big change happened because of strong planning and making important decisions for the future. The government played a main part in this. They had a clear idea of what they wanted the city to be in the future, and they worked hard year after year to make that idea real. This meant building many new things, but also later thinking about the past and trying to save some parts of it. Saving some old buildings helps people remember the city's history. It shows that even when a city grows very fast, it is possible to try and keep some connections to its past and culture. Singapore's success is a result of these different things working together. Good planning, fast building, and later trying to save some historical buildings are all part of the story. It offers many important lessons for cities everywhere. Cities can learn from Singapore about planning transport that many people use, how to build good homes for many people, and how to add green spaces even in a busy city. They can also learn about how important it is to plan for a long time, and they can learn about the challenge of growing fast while also trying to keep some of the city's history and character. Singapore is a strong example of a city that was planned very carefully. This careful planning helped it become a successful and modern place. It shows what is possible when a city plans for the future not just for a few years, but for many decades. The government's part in this long process was very important. They made plans that helped the city grow and made life better for the people who live there. This journey involved big changes and important choices about what new things to build and what old things to try and keep safe. The story of how Singapore developed gives valuable ideas for city planning in places all over the world. It shows how important it is to have a clear idea of what you want a city to be and to work steadily to make it happen. Finding a balance between building new things and keeping old ones is a key lesson from Singapore's experience. Singapore's experience is a good example of how a city can change very quickly and successfully. It shows that with strong leaders and careful plans, a city can deal with problems and achieve great things for its people. Focusing on goals for the future was very important for making all the building projects happen. From the transport systems to the homes and the parks, everything was planned as part of a bigger picture. This way of putting everything together helped create the well-designed city we see today. The lessons from Singapore's journey are useful for many cities that are also growing and may not have much space or resources. Singapore's success shows the power of thinking carefully and working hard on city plans for a long time.